שלום, שוב תודה על הסבלנות, ואני מתכבדת
Good afternoon. I have the honor to introduce the Minister of Justice, MK Ayelet Shaked. She is an MK from the Jewish Home Party, together with Naftali Bennett. She founded the movement My Israel and headed it. In the former MK, she was head of the faction and member of the Economic Committee, the chairperson of the committee to return Pollard and returning the foreign infiltrating workers to their countries. I have the honor to call upon the Minister of Justice, Ayelet Shaked.
טוב, לא רואים כלום.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This conference is held under the title Change of the Rules of the Game. And I'd like to focus on something that impacts all the players and the scenario in the game, the legal court and the international law. The state of Israel leads in the world in warfare laws, asymmetry in war, and the international department in the Ministry of Justice. From a global point of view, the state of Israel is the biggest test case for the legal warfare. In the last year, I learned the characteristics of this court, and I learned from the best professional people from the international law in the Ministry of Justice. With the changes of the collapse of a nation state and the organizations that became very extremist and caused inequality in the Middle East, Syria, Iran, and deal with the superpowers show the negative tendency, and this is a crisis that continues from Tehran to Damascus and Beirut. And together with that, there's another relevant trend of the strengthening of the non-state players. The technological development enables those factors as well as terrorist organizations to cause definite damages while working from the other states and creates a new world order. And this situation undermines the basic foundations. If once it was obvious who is the combatant, who is the citizen, today all the borders are blurred. Not just the terror changes, but also the modus operandi of those organizations. Some organizations that were negligible in the past, they take a bigger part in the regular warfare of today. And the solutions that we need to find in this changing reality compels us to find new ways. The Geneva Convention that was signed dealt with the conduct between nations and countries during war. There was a classical war where states were fighting states, but today states fight against terrorist organizations. Those old methods of war have to be implemented in the modern battlefield. This complicated situation raises questions when states have to fight against terror organizations. This is an asymmetry kind of war and doesn't take part the way it used to. In that respect, the goals are not bases of armies, and the enemy acts in a civilian area and uses humans as a human shield. And this is very difficult for any regular army. We have to underscore something which is self-evident. The state of Israel is committed to the international law. This commitment derives from our values as a Jewish and democratic state and is part of the family of nations. The war laws compel us, and we sometimes give up. some operations and campaigns in order to distinguish between military targets and civilian ones. However, this sequence of the changes in our environment compels us to harness the best professionals and the best ideas in order to find new solutions, in order to fight in the new courts. We have to adapt ourselves to release all the legal tools and the readiness of Israel in order not just to react to what's happening, but also to find new ways. The struggles against terror with all its forms is one of the core issues that bother me as a Minister of Justice. I focus on the one hand in the battle against the delegitimation factors who work tirelessly outside of our borders and sometimes even seem to slander Israel by political terror. But on the other hand, I want to expand the legitimacy of the IDF and the forces. And when I entered office, the head of the Shabak told me that in the 5 years we're trying to pass a bill of terror in the Knesset. And I said to him, Yoram, I promise within a year it's going to happen. He didn't believe me. But I'm very happy that a few weeks ago, within 2 months, this law is going to pass, and it's going to give tools to the defense forces in this very difficult reality that we live in today in order to fight terror.
As part of strengthening this front, I have made several organizational changes in the department, in the Ministry of Justice, and as part of these, we have allocated resources in order to set up a department for international law on war. This accompanies the legal advisor and the Attorney General in order to make sure that all the maneuvers are done under the law. This is because we feel that legal advice cannot only remain with the military, and there is need for a professional arm that provides a civil perspective. In parentheses, I want to say that without a doubt, the new Attorney General, Chaim Mandelblit, is in this respect the right person at the right time. His experience and his vast knowledge in legal France, and the fact that he was in charge of public, civil and international law in the military, as well as his leadership of the campaign against delegitimization following Operation Cast Lead that ended with the Goldstone report becoming a dead letter, is very significant in this aspect. Dr. Mandelblit also has a dissertation which he wrote here at the INSS as a fellow on lawfare and the law of war. When I met with the committee, I told the committee that one of the things that is the most important for the government and for the State of Israel in 2016 is to have the Attorney General understand and be professional and an expert in this field. One of the examples of the change of the rules of the game is cyber. Israel is a leading player and also a victim of many cyber attack attempts. Most of the attacks are not signed, are anonymous, there are no databases or affiliation to any specific country. And given the obvious dangers of hostile takeover of systems and computers, Israel continues to develop in this area, and within several years it has become a cyber superpower in the world. In the government meeting, we saw that 20% of investments in the world are in Israeli companies. Israel is also spearheading not only with its cyber capabilities, but also with its involvement of forming the international campaign against cyber. The importance of this and the attempt to have these legal steps have led me to decide to create manpower positions within the Ministry of Justice for cyber. This is an expression of Israel's ability to maneuver and its right to defend itself. Laws on cyber are now being formulated by the biggest experts and legal advisors in the community, and the professionals are leading the writing of norms that will become the practice of the future. In these international forums are also representatives of Israel's legal system, and they are perceived as an investing part and a very admired part in the international legal community. They impact the writing of the new norms, they put new content into international law, and make sure that Israel's interests are expressed in the forming of the campaign. This is our way of creating Israel's expanse in the next few years. In these forums, we see the great appreciation Israel receives from various legal entities across the globe. Professor Mike Schmidt, one of the biggest names in this field from the United States, said just this last year that our legal experts on war are the best of the world. He kept talking about Israel's policy and its battle against terrorism, a policy that years beforehand was criticized by the United States, among others, in the years before the United States met the murderous terrorism of Al-Qaeda. In this gap between the professionals' approach to Israel and the country's approach to Israel is not anything new. If in the past countries would condemn us for our targeted killing policies and they thought we should arrest terrorists rather than kill them, now many countries take the same route and have made it a norm. And the absurdity is that some of the countries whose representatives seek to learn how Israel is combating terrorism are sometimes the same countries that criticize us. The current wave of terrorism has shown once again the hypocrisy of those people who are defaming Israel and using lies to do so. Just last week, we heard once again the Swedish Minister of Foreign Affairs, a diplomat who has taken aboard a number of Nazis after the war and never put them to trial. This country that gives millions of dollars to anti-Semitic organizations, such as the Al-Haq organization that promotes bias against Israel. And the words said by this Swedish diplomat and the others mean that our work is not simple. Our battle against legitimization has become a cornerstone in trying to harm Israel. The enemy has seen that it cannot defeat the IDF directly, and therefore in recent years it prefers places such as BDS and the International Court in The Hague, and we must do more. We must be on the offensive, not only on the defensive. This BDS movement uses information that human rights organizations publish, such as B'Tselem and Breaking the Silence. The Goldstone report analysis shows that 40% of the findings come from the New Israel Fund and Palestinian sources that are anti-Israel, and these publications provide some of the lies. In time, Goldstone himself admitted that had he known while writing the report what he learned later on, he would have written a completely different report, but it was too late by then. The outcome of these organizations' activities created huge political damage for Israel and was detrimental harm to Israel's ability to defend itself. Fighting delegitimization is a multifaceted campaign. It's not only in the Ministry of Justice. Minister Gilad Erdan also has a campaign against BDS and is assisted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of the Diaspora. But as far as legal tools are concerned, my ministry is responsible for it, and I am proud of my task to lead this. Upon entering office, I instructed that a legal infrastructure be set up in favor of battling BDS and boycotters. We will use every legal tool we have in order to combat this phenomenon. We learn, even if it's slow and tough, that Israel, when it is whole with its way and fights to defend itself, the world learns to accept that. In this respect, we should also make note of another issue that has not been spoken of enough and is relevant to the first part of my address today: the unstable situation in the Middle East and the rise of this Shiite corridor in the area. strengthening the ties with the Kurdish people. The Kurds are an ancient people that are more than 1,500 years old and now have more than 35 million members. It is a democratic nation, peace seeker, that never attacked another nation. Over the years, the Kurds have had a perfect democracy and have given equal rights to women. The Jewish people and the Kurds have a long history and have much respect between them. Both peoples now share common interests more than ever before, battling against extremists, trying to stop Daesh, ISIS, something that the Kurds are fighting for with all their might. I think it is time to promote steps that will correct the injustice that made the Kurds the biggest nation without a country, without a state. We must call upon the nations to set up a country, a state that will be for the Kurds, that will come between Israel and Turkey and Iraq, and will stop this messianic revolution. It is a global interest. Until that happens, we will have to build political, economic and cultural ties and bridges with the Kurds and to view them as strategic partners for a mutual front. It is time to collaborate with the Kurds in Turkey and with their brothers across the globe. I would now suggest that both my friends and rivals be on the right side, our side, the side that will be combating terrorism and defeating it. And as Dr. Moshe Beilinson said, in the early 1936, they asked, how long will we be living under these new attacks until the most benevolent, the most bold person of our rival camps will know that there is no way that the Jewish people will be broken in their land, and there is no other way but to accept it. That is the reason for the campaign. I would like to thank you all for coming, and I hope you all return to your work with many insights, many ideas, with thinking outside the box and much creativity, because we need it. Together we will all navigate Israel to safety among all the challenges it faces in the elaborate playground that we are living in. Thank you very much.